Because I bit off more than I can chew, again, at least concerning getting my next miniature painting project done, because I picked something with a lot of small details across a 10 miniature set, today's video is going to be about how I magnetized all of my miniatures so they can go into the Jikoki miniature cases that I've picked up. The most important items I used were green stuff, superglue, which I tried both gel and regular liquid superglue with equal success, wax paper, and 6mm by 2mm neodymium magnets. And to be brutally honest, these magnets are expensive. I purchased 400 of them for $85 US from jc-magnetics.com. The link's in the description. I purchased a lot of magnets from them before, and they are always quick to deliver. The short of how I did this can be summed up in 5 steps. 1. Roll a bead of mixed green stuff. 2. Put a drop of glue on the bottom of the base and push the green stuff down hard into it. 3. Put a drop of glue on the center of the green stuff. And 4. Push a magnet into the center of the green stuff. The final step is to push the base down onto the wax paper to ensure the green stuff and the magnet are at the same level as the bottom of the base. This way the base will sit flat on whatever surface you stand the miniature upon. Completing all of these steps only took a matter of seconds. Note that the polarity does not matter in this instance, as the magnet will stick to a metal tray no matter which side of the magnet is face down. This only matters if you are going to stick this magnet to another magnet. For some of the older miniatures I painted on this channel, specifically the WizKid miniatures for Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, these come on flat discs. These I just attached to the top of an extra 32mm base that I had ordered from Amazon. I'll come back later with an additional basing materials to hide the uncovered space on the plastic base surrounding it, and you know what, let's be honest, I'm never actually going to do that. After magnetizing hundreds of miniatures, I've come up with a few extra tidbits to help speed up the process and made my life just a little easier. The first is, if you're going to magnetize a lot of miniatures at once, roll a large amount of green stuff balls first, so you can then clean the green stuff residue from your fingers and then go from one miniature to the next in quick succession. Another suggestion is to use as little green stuff as you can. You just want enough to cup the magnet and get the magnet level with the bottom of the base. The next tidbit is, if you can, magnetize the base first before you put your miniature or any basing materials onto the base. Being able to push down on a smooth, flat surface makes the process much less complicated and reduces the risk of damaging a miniature. At some point during this, I further improved my process by putting the base down on the table upside down and then pushing the magnet into place using the bottom of a Sharpie. Then I turn the base upside down and press down gently just to ensure it's sitting flat. Just a note, make sure you do this over wax paper, as superglue doesn't stick well to wax paper and you don't have to worry about accidentally gluing your base to the table. With all of the easy to magnetize miniatures out of the way, let's get to the more complicated ones. For my Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures, the bottom of these are not the same. A few had enough room underneath to fit a magnet, but most did not. So here I used a 15 by 64th drill bit, though later I started using a 13 by 64th drill bit, and my suggestion is to use the latter. You have to push a little harder to squeeze the magnet in, but that extra snug fit means you don't need to use green stuff. I used a hand drill, put it in low gear, and be sure you put it in low gear if you have such a setting, and then slowly drill. Try to keep the drill bit perpendicular with the base, and stop periodically to clean the plastic shaving spiraling on the bit's tip. To help ensure I do not drill too deep and come out the other side of the base, I'm aiming for the center of the explosion this Spider-Man's miniature is leaping away from. If I do accidentally drill too deep, it'll be hidden by the girth of said explosion. Notice that this magnet falls out easily because I used the 15 by 64th bit and the hole is slightly too big. You'll not have this issue if you use the 13 by 64 bit. Just remember to drill slow and test the depth of the magnet repeatedly until it's seated where the bottom of the magnet is parallel with the bottom of the base. Because the base itself will fully cup the magnet, I don't bother with green stuff and just use super glue. For all of the Warhammer miniatures that I've painted, I used the same steps using green stuff. It was a little more annoying due to the molded circle insert things on the bottom of the bases, but that was the only real difference. For bases and miniatures with the molded slit, I rolled a tube of green stuff to fill the gap in the base. I then put super glue onto the slit on the bottom of the miniature and pressed it down into the green stuff. For the Power Rangers miniatures that I painted previously, these were board game pieces and had hard plastic molded bases. I treated them like the Crisis Protocol bases and carefully drilled through them. 2 of them I got in too much of a hurry and completely drilled through. To fix it, I just glued the magnet in place as intended, and then I painted the top of the magnet black and then glued additional flocking on the base to fill the gap. If I had done this on a more complicated or molded or sculpted base, then fixing it would have been far more difficult. At that point, I'd likely just cover it with debris, like a board of wood made from a popsicle stick, or I'd have just glued a rock over it, or maybe even sculpted a small crater. The way I handled the Power Ranger bases and the Marvel Crisis bases is also how I dealt with much larger bases, such as for the display for the 4 seasonal miniatures I painted on this channel. For larger oval bases, I treated these the same as the Warhammer or 32mm bases, using green stuff, glue, and magnets. The only difference is that I added more magnets on the bottom of these bases to ensure it was strong enough to keep it attached to the metal tray. My last useful note is that I found it helpful to put down some sheets of paper between the metal trays and the magnets. They still hold, but it makes it much easier to remove a miniature if you're picking it up by the base. This is beneficial for me as I do not travel with miniatures, but if I was going to tournaments with Warhammer miniatures, for example, I definitely forego the paper, at least while I'm in transit. And that'll bring this video to its end. I hope you learned something or inspired to decimate your bank accounts to magnetize your own miniatures, because between the case to put them in and the magnets themselves, this is not a cheap endeavor. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and if you like the content of this video and would like to see more, you can easily support this channel by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I'm Jim with Working with Miniatures. I'm truly grateful for your time, and I bid you a fond farewell. Until the next video.